you everyone for coming here today. I'm excited to be able to talk about the companion app again. So because I gave a part of a keynote yesterday and actually showed the app, I actually changed the structure of this talk because I really didn't want to repeat myself all over again. And so what I'm really hoping to accomplish in this talk is to kind of show you where we're planning to do, at least in the short term. So, you know, V2, V3, and we're hoping to get that out by the end of the year. It's our fingers crossed. But what I really wanted to do is make this a bit more of an interactive discussion, because I think I have the opportunity to sit with a bunch of educators and find out from you where we should, in your opinion, take the app. And that's what I think I would really like to get out of this, and just some ideas, and think of this as a structured brainstorming. So we know a few things. We know that we wanted to build a phone app that really helps students explore mathematical concepts and learn math. That was our mandate with this. So why don't we just walk you through it? A lot of these slides are kind of blank, and I'm hoping you can help me fill them in terms of what you would like to see next. Sounds good? Okay. So you saw V1 yesterday, and again, the purpose of this initial launch was really focused on the first thing that I mentioned that we wanted to do in my talk yesterday, was help students get their math into Maple. And I think Lance spoke about it in his talk. It is a stumbling point, you know. Students struggle sometimes with how they enter an expression into Maple, and the idea with the app was to make that easier. It was also to allow them to save their math for later. So if they saw something in the textbook, they saw something in the classroom, they could take a picture, upload it, and then explore with it later. And that was really our initial foray with V1. I'm not going to show you guys the amazing video, but Rochelle is here somewhere, so we can make her embarrassed a little. But let's talk about V2. So the plan, and I showed you this live yesterday. I wanted to show you with some of the screenshots. Really, the idea with V2 is same thing. Go ahead, frame your math, take a picture of your expression. There's actually a math editor here, and something that they're really proud, because we've found that with students, sometimes for a simple expression, well, it takes more time to take a picture of it than it does to type it in. And so there will be a really nice editor to allow students to enter in their derivatives, integrals, matrices. One of the things that I'd like feedback for any of you who'd be interested in kind of playing with a beta version of it is to try that keyboard, right? See what you like, what you don't like, what's missing, and we will evolve it with time. It's something, actually the editor is something I'm very proud of. And then the other thing is, so once you get that, is to be able to then get the response. So now I'm talking about V2. Longer term, this can change, and what you see here can change. Upload to Maple, this is something that Laurent mentioned in his talk. Being able to upload to Maple and allowing students to go into Maple and really take advantage of the power of Maple is something that we're also working on tangentially. And this idea to make it easier to use. So something that's key to what we wanted to build in the app is to make it easy to get into Maple and continue to explore mathematics. And so that's there. And throughout the app, you will be able to upload to Maple at any time, and it's via the Maple Cloud. So some of the other things that I wanted to show you about. For V2, one of the things that we wanted to do, you'll notice here we took a slightly different approach. We wanted to get students to be able to practice. That was key to what we were building, because as I mentioned yesterday, I truly believe that that's how students are going to learn, is if they have to practice. And so here, it's the idea is that when you take a picture of a matrix, a differential equation, a limit, you get the answer, at least in the short term. Instead of going deeper into the answer, what we wanted to do is say, here's another similar problem. Try it out. See what you get. Are you able to solve it? And you'll notice here, we actually have, and you didn't see this last night because it's not built yet, but it will be there. The ability to see if you get the answer wrong, what's the correct answer? And if you get it right, you get a green saying, this is correct. Different types of questions, so yes or no. But this could be expanded later on to, let's say it could be a graphing type question. and then there'll be different plot options. Or if you're doing things like finding, in more high school mathematics, where's the maxima, where's the minima? You can do things like that. And so that's something that we wanted to do. One thing that I don't have a screenshot of is, and something that somebody told me, is how are you going to get students to practice? Like, how are we going to actually do this? And I think I wanted it to be fun. So what you don't see here is this element of gamification. Every time a student goes into what we're calling for now this practice mode or try again, they start collecting points. And the idea is to make it as fun as possible, right? So we debated this internally, and I'd love to hear feedback. I think if you try, even if you get the answer wrong, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that you tried, so you will get points for doing that. And longer term, something I would love you guys to help me brainstorm is, how do we make it even more interesting and more engaging to students? Ultimately, our goal is to help them learn mathematics. How do we do that? And so one of the things that we're going to do here is tie it to a social change piece that, in speaking to with students, resonated with them. So our idea, and we'll see once we launch it, is that every time you collect points, you'll help plant trees. MapleSoft will plant trees. And not a tree for each point, because I think we would quickly become bankrupt. Laurent's looking at me. So we have to figure out all of the metrics. But the idea is that a lot of students are very passionate about the environment. As a company, MapleSoft is very passionate about this as well. And we thought it would be a great way to inspire a student to say, okay, you know what, let me do this. Let me try it out. And if at the same time I'm able to help the environment, then I'll give it a go. We'll see. In the third or fourth iteration, that might change. But feedback we've received thus far has been very positive. So the next few slides, I want to talk about kind of each of the things I talked in the keynote. So our objective was to make it easier for students to get their work into Maple. And I put some bullet points. This is where I want it to become an interactive discussion. This is where I want you guys, and because, trust me, this talk is going to be very short if you don't contribute, because that's what I planned. So please, I'm looking out, like, my boss is here. Don't let me down. But this idea of maybe you guys can help me brainstorm. So, make it easier to get students get their work into math. I can't actually see. So one of the things longer term that we're planning to do is allow them to take a picture of a systems of equations. So it's not just a single expression, which is what you can kind of do with V1, larger expressions. Take a picture of an entire problem. This is where I really want us to get to, and it's something that we're working on, but that's a hard problem to solve. I'd like us to get to a point where you have an entire page and you take a picture. And then you can bring that into the app, but you can also bring that into Maple. And as Laurent mentioned longer term, where did I go wrong? Where did I go wrong algebraically? Where did I go wrong conceptually? We'll get there eventually. MapleSoft has brilliant people working on it. I just get to be the spokesperson on it. Enhancements to the Maple Cloud. So that's something, the Maple Cloud is really powerful. And in sitting these talks, I've heard people, suddenly the light bulb has flashed in terms of what they can do with the Maple Cloud and how students can interact with it. So that's something else. Yeah, I have it over here. Making the Maple Cloud easier to use with icons or pictures, multi-line inputs, taking a picture of all of their work. What else do you guys have for me? Scott.
Oh,
I see
yeah.
you happen to be sitting there, so.
Right. So actually, this is not a direction I necessarily am interested in terms of getting students to learn how to do math, because my students, I'm assuming, have already done math, and I'm trying to keep math out of my class. But what I can certainly say is it possible to, since there must be gobs and gobs of databases of problems from math, is there a way to sort of link up with, I don't know, a textbook or a database, like, is there a mastering math system that they have or something like that? I'm just making up some ideas.
Yeah.
Social connection, maybe with Facebook or Twitter, or share your progress and say, I got this right, I got this wrong, okay, and I share with my friends.
Why don't I, actually that goes in, yes, please, go ahead.
Oh yeah, to that extent, a leaderboard or something?
Okay, I'm writing this all in here. That's like this third or fourth slide, but let's go with it. Yes, please.
So both of those suggestions are implemented in a language app called Duolingo, which you probably know.
I was inspired by Duolingo. I use it myself.
And it is remarkably successful at actually teaching vocabulary. It's surprising how effective it is. So I hope that this succeeds. But there are some really, really difficult technical problems living in here. Handwriting recognition, if you're looking at equations on a board or something, this is, depends on context, and that's going to be really hard. But please, please, please make it work.
Okay, so for all of the developers that have come to the talk, did you please make it work? Doug.
I think one difference I'll say with the Duolingo example is people choose to go to Duolingo.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about people who are assigned to learn math. They've been assigned to take our classes. So that's a big difference whether they voluntarily chose this or whether they're assigned to do it.
Mm-hmm.
To students, school is a game, anyhow. But the game is points and grades. Trees, leaderboard, that's nice, but grades are what count. If you give the same points for trying and getting it wrong as you do for trying and getting it right, they're just gonna push buttons and get points.
Yep.
Whatever they can, they will look for the easiest way to win the game. If that somehow does not involve learning the material, they'll figure it out and they'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
Even if that's harder than learning the material. So I would say, you've got to find a way to connect that work to their course, their grade. Blackboard, through the learning management system. Somehow it's got to get back to the instructor, or somehow that it's got to get back there. You can do that, then you're...
So let me see if I captured what you said. You said a lot of...
Yeah.
Every time I talk to you, Doug, you give me a lot, and I'm trying to process it all. But, so I think for you, ultimately, one of the things I'm hearing is that somehow you would like to see this actually tied back into the course. So as an instructor, if you say to your students, you have to go do this, you mandate it, you want it tied back. Do you ever think you would mandate this in a course?
Of course.
Great, that's fantastic.
That's what I've been doing with the Maplets for calculus, and that's why it doesn't. That's what its biggest hang-up is it's not connected to a grade, and I haven't been able to connect it into a grade book, and that's the same drill and practice idea, and it's just you've got to find a way to get it back, and they know how to game our stuff. We've had people take pictures and turn it in. Well, there are ways you can manufacture the pictures without actually doing the work, and but yes, students learn when they do, not when they sit and watch. They learn when they do, and I've got to get them to do when they don't want to.
Yeah.
To that extent, you've got a more interesting proposition than the online textbook Cognitive, which teachers can assign problem sets. And the biggest complaint I've heard with that is that you only see what the student did as an answer.
Yeah.
So if at some point when you can actually analyze where the student made mistakes, if teachers were able to centrally manage that, I'm not a teacher, but as a student, then being able to see where I went wrong and then give me advice after would be better than just, oh, they saw I got a wrong answer, but how did I get that wrong?
Would you prefer to get stopped before you first made a mistake?
I don't know. I think making the mistake once is valuable, and then further times it might be good to stop it.
I'm saying if you made a mistake early in a problem, and then everything else later on is just can't be right because of the mistake you made. Would you prefer to be stopped at that point?
I don't know.
Well, that's a decision you can do.
That's very, I don't know. It depends on the problem. It's like
It depends.
small like copy error, then but if I've made something fundamentally wrong, then I should probably figure out why I made it fundamentally.
So it depends on the problem.
Yeah.
I want to ask another question because I've heard Brian and I have debated this quite often. And, you know, it's this idea that math is something that you're assigned to, that no student really wants to do it on their own. And I question that. Like, why can't math ever be like learning an instrument, right? You have to practice in order to learn an instrument. And there's lots of apps out there that encourage students to do that. I have to wonder if we're looking at it wrong or we're not getting students enough credit. Like, could it not be that they're actually, Doug is shaking his head, but to other people out there, could it not be that there's a way to get students to be excited about math? You're a teacher, you're a tutor, Rachel, what do you see?
I mean, I tutor all levels of mathematics at my university, and so whether they're STEM track or not, they have to take math courses. And so the ones that are not STEM, you know, they're taking college algebra and they just have no motivation because they don't see why they're ever going to need it. So that's, you know, I don't know how you would make it fun for the ones that in the long run they're thinking, I don't need this. Why am I even doing this? That's what I hear all the time.
What about the ones on the STEM track?
Well, you know, like he was saying, you know, the big thing there is it's all about grades. You know, the ones in the STEM track, they just want to keep that really high GPA. It varies with the student.
But don't you think they would, and I'm asking the question because I don't know and it's been a long time, but don't you think if you could say, okay, if you do this, whatever this is, it will correlate to grades, wouldn't that be enough motivation, or do you think it'll stop? Like, do you think you could say, okay, practice and we'll make it as fun as it can possibly be, but you're going to have to practice and you will see that in terms of your performance in the classroom? Do you think that would resonate with students to say, okay, I would do it?
So you're saying that if they use the app and practice, it
Yeah.
somehow boosts their grade?
That's, yeah. Because I mean, I think that's the point, right? Like the more you practice, hopefully,
Yeah.
you,
So they would, by practicing, they would have the results of understanding and get a higher grade.
Correct.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, you know, but that's just in general, right? Like if you
Yeah.
if you
practice anything.
practice, you're gonna get better and you're gonna get a better grade anyway.
Okay.
But
Again, I'm just asking the question. There is a lot of it. Doug, go ahead.
I would say the fundamental mistake you're making right now, is talking about students as if there's an average student, and student is a typical. All of us in this room are not typical students. None of us in this room is a typical student. I mean, we enjoy the math. We seek it out. We embrace it. We're not most of our students. There are some that do. But there are a lot that take math every year because, I mean, and I mean every year. I mean, since they were 5 years old, one constant in their life has been math. Something called math. Fortunately, none of it was, but, right? And so it's just one of those things you do. And you have, to change that fundamentally is breaking through that momentum, that inertia that the students have what they know what, they think they know what a math class is. When we bring some of these things in there, we talk about conceptual understanding and not mechanical manipulations. Right. Students say, you're not teaching me math. Yes, I am, but you didn't have math before. But so, and I think students are overloaded. You remember being overloaded as a student. And do you voluntarily have time to go out and do more stuff? You can't do the stuff that's assigned. You can't do all the stuff that's assigned, let alone have time to go out and do something more. So some students see the benefit of doing that, but the vast majority are struggling just to get by with what they can.
And just a few comments about that. I think even if we don't get the vast majority of students, I personally would feel happy if I helped even some of those STEM students, right? Like I think I'm not going into, or we, I should say, when I say I, it's, you know, as a company and organization, we are not going into this saying, oh, this one tool is going to change everything. That would be extremely naive. It's this idea of, and I think I mentioned it yesterday, for the student who is in STEM and wants to do it and is struggling, how can we say, okay, this is a fun way, this is how you can learn, this is how you can better. So when you get into your calculus class, and I have a professor who is doing exactly that, changing the way they learn math, you know, and putting a concept in front of us, how do I not get bogged down by the manipulations and the algebra? I think that's where I'm trying to come from. Sorry, Laurent, please.
Just to add to that, I have a pretty cynical view that I'm sure has born out of experience, right? But and you're right, the students is not an average student, there's a spectrum there. And of course there's the keenness that you have more trouble with, right? And there's the other end where, right, whatever you do,
Yeah,
not
you have
reach
to
them.
choose who your target is.
But if we can just move that line a bit to the left of the bell curve, right?
That's right.
And get a few more people and get a few more people after that and keep making progress there. And that's what we're trying to do.
Mhm.
That's what you have to do.
Robert, please.
I'm a bit confused about what you're trying to build here.
Mm-hmm.
Are you building an app that lets the smartphone access the technology you already have, or are you replacing the technology you already have? Because you've got Mobius and you've got Maple TA, which are designed to be educational tools. And it seems to me like you're looking at this phone as a vehicle to go in that same direction, but ignoring the fact that you've already got this stuff built. What's in the back of my head is a comment that I used to make to my students. This goes back, I think, to the early 90s, where computers had a CRT screen and a big box. Okay, so in the classroom we had all right, I used to tell my students, you are the ones that are going to build a device that will fit in your shirt pocket and it will cost $1.98. Now have the device that fits in your shirt pocket. It doesn't cost $1.98. So you've got the device. You also already have the technology, the software for the educational aspect. What are you trying to build here? What is this thing supposed to come out to be? A reproduction, again, of technology software you already have? I don't get it. So please explain it.
I will.
Figure it out.
I'll do my best to explain it. Robert, I can always count on you for asking the really tough questions. I think I come back to it in terms of just the students that I tutor, the students that I've spoken to different instructors, they all have the phone. They all have it, right? They all use it, they use calculators. It's this idea of where they're working through a problem, they're doing it pencil and paper. They're still doing it that way. And sometimes they may not have Maple. They don't fire it up. There's a learning curve to use Maple. And it's this idea of saying, you know what, don't stop. We have an app. Take a picture of your math and we will try to guide you. Really, that's what we're trying. I'm not trying to reproduce our technology because Maple is phenomenal. There is no way we could put it all into this app. That's why it's very, I should say in this, what we're trying to build.
Powerful.
It is.
I don't see any reason why we shouldn't run Maple on these things.
No, don't get me wrong. It's more what we were trying to do with
that's
this.
what I want.
Trust me.
You want to give me an app that I want? Let me run Maple on my phone.
Can I present that to you next conference? Okay, let me work on that one. I know it's what people want, but here what we were trying to do is just give students. Sorry, Paul, go ahead.
Can we dig into that just a little bit? Is the phone the right interface? Could you actually do?
It's the right interface if it's the one you've got. I mean, if your computer is in your hotel room, like mine is, and I got something I wanna do, it's the thing I've got.
But is
No,
it-
it's not an ideal interface,
Yeah.
but it is an interface.
I don't look at it as a phone. I look at it as a computer. It's a pocket computer.
Mhm.
It happens to have a cell modem in it. It has wireless capability, built-in GPS, chipset, that kind of stuff. It's a computer.
Yeah, I'm already running Octave on it. I mean,
I'd like
it's
to
with
see
the
if I
math
saw it
phone.
mapped.
I
I mean, if I
Big
if I
problems
didn't
on
have
it. I mean, I really
the
don't.
capacity to put all of Maple on this phone, why can't I just set up the equation, set it up, and have it done offline and bring back the answer?
And
It's
I
not
think
about the computing capacity, it's about the interface.
Yeah.
You get your problems in.
But that's the whole idea of the picture. You take the picture and then you should return it. But again, that goes against what your philosophy is. And the question is, could you answer his question, which is interface this, use the database and run it to Mobius, and therefore let Mobius sort of go through the whole process of giving them the ways of doing it.
I mean, sure, we can put it down, and I don't want to say no to that, because really this is something that we can consider and we can figure out. The goal of this, and the goal in talking to all of you, is to, this is a problem, this is a WS students have, and it's how do we help them do better at math? How do we encourage that? How do we inspire them? Right? Like, that is what I'm trying to do. So Robert, I hope that's somewhat answered your question. It's I see students struggle with it, and I want to be able to give them something to help, and that's fun. And I want to encourage the ones who are interested, because it won't be all students, but the ones who are interested and who are struggling to say, okay, you know what, I kind of see this. And later on, I wanted to get there, but you know, maybe it shows you the steps, or there's animations, and there's plots, and there's different things to explore that concept. And later on they say, okay, let me try one. Oh, cool, I got it right. Let me try another one. Because I remember as a student, there was 3 problems. Okay, the instructor gave me a worksheet. This is my engineering class, and it wasn't taught the way I should have learned engineering after hearing you guys speak. But it was, I got a worksheet, and there was 2 or 3 problems. One of them was already solved. I tried to solve the other 2, and that was it. Went to the textbook. The textbook didn't have more for me to do. I would have to proactively go to the library, pick another book, try it out again. I struggled. I didn't know where I went wrong. I didn't see the answer. Eventually give up. That was me as a student. And I know there are other students like that, similar, because I tutor them and I work with them. And you guys see them in your classroom. And so that's what we're trying to do. And I know Rick, sorry, go ahead, please.
No. Students that are going to the library, finding other textbooks and looking for more problems to work are not students of my experience. I'm sorry.
Do you have them, Scott? Thank you.
Sure, yeah, they come to me and they say, okay, I gotta study for this exam, can you give me more problems?
Yeah.
So they do exist, but on the other hand, I have to admit, I don't really have them and say, well, here's another textbook, so I don't have that.
Or I would go to do old exams to prep, right? And to do things like that. That's how I would, and of course the exam would be completely different, but that's okay. I learned more. Guillaume, Paulina, Doug, Guillaume, why don't we?
Just in this line, so I'm thinking about the student who likes mathematical problems. So then it would be nice that he have access to problems, but also with people say if they like it or not. Like you have a board of nice problem, and then the student can say, okay, this is a nice problem. A lot of people like this problem, and also you need the difficulties. It's
Yes.
easy, difficult. But then you go into making also a kind of textbook for the phone. So I don't know how it works for that. But that's something I guess students who like maths would like in this kind of app.
Well, one thing that we've explored the idea, just again, we're brainstorming, is this thought of, you know, maybe the questions get harder. So you do one and it's pretty simple. And you do another one, it's progressively getting a little bit more challenging, a little bit more difficult. And so I think this was in speaking to you about how you learn, maybe there's a way to actually do something like that that would help students develop their skill set. Yeah, please.
I was a student, and I was probably more like you. I wanted to learn more, and I look at examples and things, but ultimately I had to take the exam by hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had to take it by hand. I guess one of the things I was thinking of is there's Khan Academy in the States. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah, I have. It's
Okay, so why not make a Maple company that
Yeah,
And later join up with Khan Academy.
if only things were so quick and easy. But yeah, I love Khan Academy. I think they do a great job. Sal does a fantastic job. That would be cool. Please.
I was gonna just turn it a little bit. I think you asked about enhancements to the Maple Cloud.
Yeah, that's one
I
thing.
think that's, I mean, I'm not sure I really know exactly what is possible in Maple Cloud now. I find that there's more than I realized. And the Maple Cloud provides you a way to do a lot of stuff on your phone now.
Mhm.
But I think that could almost be the real key to unlocking some of these other powers, is what exactly can be done in the cloud and how does it.
What would you like?
Well, I'm gonna join Rick probably.
Okay.
I think that's what I would like.
Let me.
But
I feel like I have
but
to give
think-
parameters
well,
when I
want
ask
something-
questions.
I want something that's gonna, I'm gonna say natural.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the nice things about the companion, is that it provides a gateway. It provides a way. Well, Ron talked last night. It used to be you open up Maple and you have this blank slate. What do I do? And now you don't have that. But now now I've got this problem. I got to fit into this nice interface. How do I do that? And the companion appears to be, a big step, a new way of doing that. To overcome that, the student doesn't have to worry about it. They just go to the Maple Cloud and there's their expression.
Yep.
Now that's got to become even easier, and we don't make it easier.
Mhm.
But I think that's, they've got to make it's got to be easier for the student to get from their assigned problem, however it's assigned, into an environment where they can solve that problem. The mastery stuff is kind of different. That's a drill and practice.
Mhm.
That's a different, with a different avenue in that. But to allow students to get into Maple, whether it's all on their phone or whether they have to go and use it on some other device.
Mhm.
Ultimately, I think they're all going to get converged.
Yeah. Paulina, please.
I wondered, I have this idea about why students might like the companion app, and I'm wondering if I have this right or whether I have base. But I think one of the advantages, it looks like for the practice problems, you can do a quick practice problem and then put away the app, do another one later, put it away, and do things in like 2-minute bites at a time, hopefully accumulating to some kind of bonus reward at the end. And so because of that, it's very convenient for people who have very small amounts of time. So there's this app called Serial Reader, which takes big gigantic books and cuts them down into 10-minute reading chunks. And it's actually really popular with readers. And I always wonder, why is this popular? Because you could just download the book from Project Gutenberg or buy it from Amazon and have the whole book. Why do people want to be fed, 10-minute chunks of a book? But it's really popular because it's an easy way for people to actually get through something really big, a tiny bit at a time. And I think the companion app could fill that role because, your phone's in your pocket, you could take it out anytime, do a couple minutes, and put it away and have it save your spot. So I don't know whether this might appeal to these busy students who have almost no time for anything else.
Like flashcards.
Yeah.
Do it to bus now.
Yeah, go ahead.
On the idea of appealing to more students, I'll just start this off with saying I'm probably not a normal student. I like Maple, and the thing is,
I want more students like that to.
at least for high school, I don't want to. As much as I like Maple, it's hard for me to go and tell my friends, hey, you should go out and buy this and then learn everything. The companion app takes that there's like 5 or 6 friends who will actually text me at night, send me a picture of a problem and say, hey, how do I solve this? The companion app with the step showing thing that Laurent showed last night is literally the solution to that with their phone without having to wait for someone else to tell them how to do it. And I think that if I could show them something like that, I could eventually push them to Maple. Or they just get stuck on that, but at least they've got something that's still helping them out.
And that is exactly what we're trying to do, right? I mean, Karishma last night said that today we are reaching about 250,000 students with Maple. But it also means every single one of them has a phone. So it's a way to draw more people into what we do.
Yep. Kat, I saw your sign to wrap up, so I think we're done. But again, if you guys have more ideas, I really wanted to pick your brain and see what you have. The skies are like, it's open, blue skies in terms of what we could do and what we could create. So I would love feedback from any of you. And then Rick, maybe next year we can make you happy. That's it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming out.